Hi, I'm Reena Lazar. I am the co-founder of Willow End-of-Life Education and Planning. When I was 16 years old, I was actually in a really scary car accident. The car flipped right completely and landed back on its wheels. Everybody was okay. That's spoiler alert. The first thing I did when I got home is I wrote letters to 3 of my best friends at the time, telling them how much I loved them, what I appreciated about them, what I hoped for them. And this is what happens often to people who are faced with death. Often there's a transformative process where you appreciate your life so much more. So Willow End-of-Life Education and Planning is basically public education that gets people to explore the reality of their mortality in a way that doesn't only prepare them for their inevitable death, but also lights up their life and helps them live their life with more purpose and more intention. Most people spend more time researching what cell phone to buy than they do thinking about what happened to them when they die. For sure, they spend more time thinking about what car they're going to get. End-of-life planning and talking about death is one of the most important conversations that nobody wants to have. Why is it important? It makes an enormous difference to the person who will die because there are lots of choices to be made. And most people don't have these conversations or do any planning until the end. And when people dive into these things, they realize very quickly that they're not just talking about death, they're actually talking about life. Everything is like that. I have an expression that I coined that says, all that matters in the end matters now. And it is so true. For example, one person wanted a grand community event for her funeral. She realized that she wanted it to be just very community oriented. And then she realized, but wait a minute, I don't really have a big community right now. And so she made a choice to change where she lives to be in a sort of more of a co-housing kind of situation. Another person realized they wanted to have all this different kind of care she really wanted to honor her body when she died. So a few different days actually of events that would really care for her deceased body. And then she realized that she doesn't take great care of her body right now. Like she's always tired and she doesn't exercise. So these aha moments happen when we think about the end. I guess the thing I'm most proud of at Willow is the educator program. So the fact that the material we've created valued so much by other people that they want to take it to their communities. Mostly in North America, but one in Japan and one in Australia, and now a new one in Denmark. So it's really spreading, and the impacts, what I love is when they report back from a workshop they've given using our detailed scripts, and they talk about how the work gets people to talk about and go to places that they just wouldn't otherwise go. We have 3, I call them the foundational workshops. They're asking people to look at things like, what are your hopes and your fears around your inevitable death? And we do an exercise to get people into that. What are your values in life and how does that impact your values at death? We have a whole exercise to get people to just articulate your values. We have these 6 questions that are called Who and What Matter Most, and they're questions like, if you had a limited time to live, how would you want to spend your time and with whom? If people were to remember 3 things about you, what would you want them to remember? And then we sometimes say, okay, what will they remember? How was a previous experience with death with someone impacted what you want for your own death? And questions like that. So in some ways they're very simple, but most people don't pause to think about them. Most of the people I work with, like the vast majority, are people who don't know when they're going to die. And they say that the impact it has on their life is incredible. It changes relationships with people. It sometimes changes people's path to what they're doing, because we talk about, for example, one of our workshops is called Legacy, Love Letter, and Heart Wills. And that's when we get people to just be present to what they want to be remembered for and what kind of mark they want to have on the world. Just taking time to do that can have an enormous impact on people. I would love to tell you about joining the Coralus community as an activator, because it was all a big accident. So what happened was, very last minute before the deadline of the previous application process for becoming a venture, I realized I qualified, and my co-founder and I quickly put together a proposal. And while putting together the proposal, I learned about activators. I'm like, what's an activator? I really had no idea. And I was intrigued, like really intrigued. And I just thought, oh, well, if I don't get this, I'll definitely become an activator. And I did. I did it through the EDC program. I was lucky enough to get that. And being an activator was phenomenal for its own sake, and also as an introduction to helping me become a venture. But let's just talk about the first part. Being an activator, first of all, meeting amazing people, both locally, which is a bonus. And then I have all these Zoom friends that from Coralus that, I mean, I just can't believe I haven't met them in person. And then there were a whole bunch of tracks of different educational tracks that I followed some of them, and I learned a lot. And then hopped on to meetings here and there. And of course the Slack group. Yeah, no, it's really beneficial. Like if I ever had a question, I just put it up there. And then of course the amazing staff at Coralus to help me out whenever I needed it. And I learned about other opportunities for grants and things like that. 100% worthwhile all around. And so having people who know that I'm looking to be mentored and looking to learn things, and that's what, and grow, it's priceless. It's been fantastic. So what's next for Willow is to grow the number of educators around the world. We have, like I said, currently about 40 active ones, and I want that number to be, 500 or 1,000. And I want Willow to help people around the world normalize the conversation around death and dying. Like that is the goal here. Because when we normalize the conversation around death and dying, we're actually also radically improving our own lives. I mean, that's where it comes from. That's the part that I find most inspiring to me, is when people make a difference in their life because they're looking at their death. And bonus, it also makes a huge difference in their death, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing for them and for everyone that they leave behind. The key takeaway is that wake up before your time is up. Really, I mean, death is just the tool. It's just a portal to help you live and love fully now. And Willow has a way to help you do that that's also both heart-centered and pragmatic. So let us help you wake up before your time's up. Willow End of Life Education and Planning. Our website is Willow, EOL, as in end of life. So willoweol.com. That's it. And then from there, you can find about the educator program. You can find amazing free tools in our shop. So go to the shop. Most of the things in our shop are actually free. So find us there.